We're talking about voiceover. Very excited to be here with you all today.
Yeah,
As always, hit that like and subscribe button and also leave a comment for us
we
over the
do love the
chat. Tell
comments.
us where you're from, who you are, and also any questions that you might have about voiceover. We're here to answer them.
Yeah.
So, all right, Gabby, talk to us today about what we're talking about and lead us off.
Well, yesterday we had a pretty interesting discussion about promoting foreign speakers and bilingual talent, and you mentioned, or one of us mentioned, ADR,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a pretty good topic. We haven't discussed. So yeah, audio dialogue replacement. Good old
Mm-hmm.
ADR, the modern name for what used to just be called dubbing or overdubbing.
Yes.
Yeah. Um,
So talk to us about, where like just kind of run us down with, someone who's like, "Oh, ADR, okay.
mhm.
I automatic dialogue replacement, I got it. What the heck is that?" I mean, where do we even begin?
I think the first thing is to understand that ADR gets used everywhere.
Mhm.
Everywhere. It gets used in movies, it gets used in commercials, it gets used in TV shows, it gets used in cartoons, animation, imported products. It's a lot. And for me anyway, I know that once you become really accustomed to ADR and once you're listening for, you can't unhear it. You know ADR when you hear it because it's everywhere.
Mhm.
And I mean, obviously, movies are the most likely place. So why does it exist? I guess that's really a big, component of this. Like, why do we even need ADR? So the most obvious is when there's a foreign product coming into the US market, and rather than simply subtitle, they want to have actors replace the original dialogue. And, this goes back to the days of like the Godzilla films being imported from Japan. But we're still seeing it. Like, Americans are really weird about foreign material. Like, we don't like to read subtitles. We're kind of lazy when it comes to that. We're very bad with foreign language. So the majority of like Netflix and Hulu and all the right, they're all doing it. If they're bringing in a show from another country, they're probably using ADR.
Mhm.
Anime is, of course, a massive market for it. Cartoons from other countries. So those are all really big ones. The other reason for ADR is mistakes, either by the actor or in production. So movie sets are loud, right? Movie sets are not always a totally controlled environment. Things happen. You end up with environmental noise, something that the audio producer on set didn't catch, a directorial choice where the director wants the line to be delivered differently. And if you cannot get the original actor back into a studio to
Mhm.
ADR their own voice over their own performance,
Yes.
then they go with a sound alike or somebody that can mimic the speech pattern. And this stuff's been going on forever. I remember even as a kid, watching like movies that were, adapted for TV and all the cursing or the, adult content was taken out. And instead of somebody, saying something else, they'd be like, you sucker. And, things like that, like really weird, like interjections. It was
Right,
always
right.
really funny. It used to be a lot more obvious. Now it's a little bit better, but yeah. Um, ADR is a ton of fun. The actors who do it often talk about matching the flaps because that's basically what you're doing. You're having
Yeah.
to watch video live while you record to match the mouth movements of the character or person on screen. ADR studios can be kind of specialized as a result.
Mhm.
Um, they're really, really fun places to hang out and to learn. But you can also do it like I've done ADR sessions where I've watched the video on my phone and, done the same thing.
So,
So
so
yeah.
Gabby, what is the and your the difference? Kind of compare, because I think sometimes ADR and dubbing
Mm-hmm.
can get a little bit mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the difference there?
I mean, there really isn't. Dubbing is just a term that gets used more when it's again a foreign film or a foreign product. So you're dubbing over the original language. But the two terms are kind of interchangeable.
Yeah, I think a lot of the work that I've done is with foreign films that come in, and let's say they're in Italian,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to, of course, put them in English,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to do their very best to match up with even though when they're in a different language, you're never going to match up because they're speaking something
No,
different.
never going to be
You know what I
perfect.
mean? Right. So, but that's one form of the work that I've done a bunch, which is, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why they'd hire me for the foreign films, but that's annoying. By the way, I get annoyed by not the foreign films, but I get annoyed by doing the dubbing, because you might get a director who's really insistent on you like nailing
Yeah.
a type of performance. So there's a lot of acting in
Mm-hmm.
this that is not what you would think it to, or generally what you think it to be.
There's a
But
lot of that, and there's
well,
also a lot of the timing.
yes,
The
yes.
timing is a big deal. Like, I remember even as a kid watching cartoons that were brought in, mainly it's the stuff from Japan, and
Hmm.
it was so funny because sometimes you would wonder why the actor was speaking so fast all of a sudden,
Yes.
and it's because they've got to get something into a time crunch based on the original.
Yeah.
Um, there's also a really funny thing that happens, depending on the language. Like, the Spanish language tends to be longer
Hmm.
than English. So English dub has to really be slow for the Spanish equivalent. It's kind of fascinating stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about. All right, you're like, okay, I can do this ADR thing, how do you like, so I come in and I'm like, okay, I want to go look for ADR
hmm
jobs. Where do I start?
Biggest thing is to find the ADR studios. Find the studios that are equipped for it and that promote it to their clients. And I mean, again, in every major market, you've got somebody who's doing this. There's a studio here in town that anytime a celebrity is in town, for whatever reason, if there's an ADR need from a previous project that they've done, they get brought into their ADR studio to do, whatever matching up there is. So there's always somebody. And so, yeah, you kind of start there and you get on their radar for this kind of stuff. And then that sort of opens the door for consideration.
No, I love it. I love it. So I think that, to me, I wanted to talk about it because I think that there is a lot of that work available out
Mhm.
there, and
Yeah.
people aren't really aware of, you know, who to target in these specific areas,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's a big thing for me, because as we dive deeper, especially
Yeah.
with VO Journey Academy coming up this next semester, which super excited
Mhm.
for, which is next
Mhm.
week. So if you've not signed up, you've got to take advantage of the deal. Got to get that plug in there. All right, that we're doing right now at avosjourney.com. But we're really focusing our efforts now more than ever on helping voice actors understand what's out there
Yeah.
for them. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is a part of that. So I'm very excited about that. We have some questions.
Yeah.
John says, apologies for this stupid question, but
Not
what does
stupid.
ADR stand for?
Not stupid at all. It's audio dialogue replacement, in case you
Mm,
were, yeah, we
yeah.
talked about it at the very, very beginning, but if you're coming in
Hmm.
late, that's the answer.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's see. Is it Sarazilla? I love that. Is ADR the type of VO work that needs to be done in person or at a studio?
Great
Oh, in
question.
person at a studio.
Yeah. That's a really good question. Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it depends on what it's for, how intense it is, who's handling the material. But I've done ADR work for major movies from my house.
Mm.
I've done ADR work for television shows from my house. So it really just depends on that production and who's involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the wild thing, you know. There's a lot of companies definitely in Hollywood that cater to ADR and that do a ton with that kind of work specifically. But when it comes to sound alike, because that's such a big part of ADR,
Mm-hmm.
they will often seek out talent outside of the area because, yeah, they need to cast a wider net sometimes.
Yeah, and that goes like so. There's a lot of stories too about what you said earlier, right? Where you'll have voice act or actors who've done a big, just like you were saying, it's done a big motion picture. They're done, they're gone, and they're in the
Hmm.
editing, and they see, okay, well, this line we need to replace something, or we didn't get it, or they didn't say it the way we
Yeah.
wanted said, or the director's like we needed, and they're not going to bring that person back in to do
No, because it
that.
costs way too much
Right,
money.
right. So that's kind of where we come in.
Yeah.
Where we come in. So yeah, good questions so far. Okay, let's see. Fantastic. Thank you for the info. Very helpful. So I think on this. So what were we were talking yesterday? How did ADR come up again? I can't
Um,
remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't recall what specifically brought it up. Um, I think that, what's fascinating too is that sometimes ADR jobs will have very specific microphone requirements because even if the actors aren't all in the same studio, they're like, well, we at least want to make sure everybody's on the same mic. Um,
Hmm.
that's always kind of wild. I mean, but there are whole ensemble casts now that are done this way of actors that never actually work together. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I do think what's interesting is if you think of AI,
Mm.
right? And if you start to think about what does, because when you said early on, you said match the flaps or whatever, right? If you think of an AI, it's almost easy to tell digital AI because you
Mhm.
can tell that that's almost like what it's doing, right? It
Yeah.
creates the mouth movements and then it tries to take an AI to
Yeah.
match mouth movements, right? Poorly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, but anyways, I think that to me, as we are trying to widen our net instead of just looking for general video production
Mhm.
companies
Mhm.
or marketing agencies. There's so many more places to get work, and ADR is always there, and it's large. But why do you think it is that you don't hear a lot of people talking about it as much as you they probably should?
I think that it is talked about more in LA because of the movie industry.
Right.
Um, but I, I don't know. I think maybe because the technology again has kind of caught up and people don't realize it. Like an ADR studio used to be you literally went into a studio with a movie theater screen in the studio, right? Like it was
Yeah.
crazy technology. Now, like we all have a movie screen in our pocket, so it's
Yeah.
not as crazy as what it
Did,
used to be.
did you?
I mean,
Oh, go ahead. I'm
oh
sorry.
no, I was going to say like probably the most prevalent example right now that people are familiar with is Squid Games.
Mm.
You know,
Hmm.
Squid Games is entirely ADR.
Wild,
And
right?
it's funny because think about the success of that show and think about how much people love it and the cult following it has. And yet, one of its frequent criticisms is they don't think the acting is that good because it's not the acting of the actor on stage that
Right.
they're right. It's the
Right.
voice actor that they're really critiquing.
Right.
And a lot of people, kind of get annoyed that they feel like it doesn't, because it's very hard to capture those
Oh
emotions
yeah.
of somebody else who's in the scene and in that moment. But it's also crazy to think, when they first imported Squid Games, I don't think they thought it was going to be the hit that it is. I don't think they saw the potential for its success. And then once they were dialed in with those voice actors, they were like, well, I guess this is our cast now. But yeah.
No, absolutely. What I was going to say too is I remember. Do you remember when? And I don't even know because I thought it was amazing, but it was some software that had come out, and it was where it mapped the actor and what they said and their mouth movements, and then it would,
Oh, mocap.
yeah, right, and then it would stream it on the bottom. So like if you were doing that, you could just read it as it streamed, and you
Yeah.
mapped it up.
Yep. So that's an adjacent technology, I guess, to ADR. It's called motion capture. And mocap is wild. So mocap is you are literally first of all, you literally wear a cap. That's a really crazy component of it. They outfit your head with like a it's just a weird like prosthetic looking cap, and it's full of sensors, and there's electrodes, and they're also hooked up to your face and to your
Right,
neck
right,
and to
right, right,
parts
right.
of your body, because as you move and as your face moves, yes, it's capturing the motion and then digitally rendering it. So in mocap, you are also a performance artist. It's really, really crazy stuff.
No, that's cool, but that's actually I was actually talking about software that went back and analyzed older films, like analyzed the films itself and took
Oh,
the films and then it would create. So basically, you know how you can go and transcribe now. I thought
yeah.
it would transcribe, but it would transcribe it to where it matched it up with the mouth movements. So
Oh,
that if you
wow.
would go in there now, if I remember correctly, it was somewhere, it was a European company that had come out with it. But the idea was for what we for 80, like you would,
I vaguely remember
right,
this.
and you
Yeah.
would see it so that when you were as a voice actor trying to replace it, you could follow along to match it up.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I do
I
remember
haven't
this.
seen it though
I haven't
since.
either. I haven't either. I don't know if it kind of disappeared or what.
Yeah,
I don't remember the name of it
but I
either.
thought
But
that was a big, like, if that, that I was like, this would
yeah,
be great. I tried to find it to buy it because I was like, this would be
yeah,
fantastic, right?
it was a cool innovation for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
But I think that was the problem. I think the voice actors really dug it, but the studios never really took to it in the US.
right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, John was saying he thinks that somebody was asking about voiceover in different languages, and yeah, that brought up the ADR topic, which
Could be.
sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sarah Zill says for a future topic, I would love if you could speak to having to go into a studio or be a specific location to work in an industry versus industries where you could do work from anywhere.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, most of the time what we're talking about is stuff that we
Right.
do from anywhere. I mean,
Right.
we both work from home. We both perform day in and day out for our voiceover
I
clients from home.
Yes. Yeah, well,
I can,
I was telling Gabby, I mean, this morning,
yeah,
I was on again with the studio and about six other people from different parts of, Eastern Europe, from Germany and Sweden
yeah.
and everything, and then maybe someone from Italy. I don't know. But I will say this, though. It is true, however, that like we were talking about this the other day, Crunchyroll, right? So if you were
Mhm.
interested in doing anything, which, they really kind of consolidated a lot of the market over
Yeah.
the last couple of years, unfortunately, maybe in some ways. And they're pretty strict on having to come to their studio
Mhm.
in order to record, and they pay per hour. It's actually, I mean, I think it's pretty crappy,
Yeah.
but they pay per hour. So if you're not there around there in Texas, right?
Mhm.
And you're not probably they're not going to fly you in. To my knowledge, maybe if they
Yeah.
really want, if there was something they really want, but most people that, with what they pay, last time I heard it was like $35 an hour, wasn't it? It
It's
was
not great.
crazy low.
Yeah.
It was
It's
crazy
not
low.
great. Not at all.
So it is true. There are some places that is what it is for studios that
Mhm.
live. Same with LA. But I think most, since COVID,
Mhm.
the rest of that, I mean, just kind of solidified the idea that most of us live anywhere.
Yeah.
But some places will fly you in if they
Mhm.
really want you.
Yeah.
So interesting when I was for our podcast, we did an interview with the what is it? The guy who was the main character in that video game that like won all of those awards. It was sorry, hold on, I'm looking for it. It was you guys might have seen because it's one of our most popular episodes. Anyways, so he basically I'm trying to find. He basically was backpacking throughout Europe
Mm,
and in the mountains, and they got a call from the studio in London, and they flew him all the way to London in
wow,
order to do this video game, this voiceover.
that's wild.
And yeah, and you know, of course, he won all sorts of awards for it, but he was literally on. He was like in the interview, he was like, oh, I couldn't get to a phone, or it was just some crazy
Oh, how
crazy
funny.
story about the whole thing that came together. And yeah, so I'm trying to,
Wild.
gosh, I would kick my butt for not uh yeah, it's Philip oh gosh, Philip Chrysakos or something like that.
Mm.
Gosh. Anyways, and yeah, so that was it was I'm such an idiot. Disco Elysium. Do you know
Oh,
that game?
I do not. I'm not a gamer.
Okay, well, anyways, Disco Elysium,
Mm.
and his name was Julian Champenois or whatever
Okay.
Champenois.
Okay.
But anyways, he won all sorts of awards, and the game won all sorts of awards. It's
Oh,
a
wow.
massive game, Disco Elysium. And anyways, that was his story, and we interviewed him about that, and it was the craziest story about he's
That's
just
wild.
backpacking, just him in a tent out in the. They flew him all the way to London to
That's
do
so
this thing,
cool.
right?
Yeah,
And
I mean, I've heard look, EA Sports is out of Maryland and they're notorious for flying people in.
yeah,
Yeah, so it does happen and it can, but yeah, I mean, but we can certainly, Sarah, just to kind of address what you said, we can talk about what it's like to go into studio and to work outside of the house when we have to and sort of what that process is like. I can definitely put that on our list.
oh, Michael said, would ADR production companies want you to provide raw audio or for us to the VO to handle mastering?
Oh no. Oh my God, no. It has to be totally raw because you're not the only actor. You're not the only person, and they have to mix you in
Man, they got to make it
to
sound like it was
something
just
else,
the
and
same
they
as
have to
everyone
make
else.
it sound seamless. So they don't want you to do anything because the minute you do, again, you kind of destroy their manipulation capabilities.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's super raw.
Hmm.
Yep, yep.
Well, you guys, thank you all so much. And what did we say we were going to do for Sarah? We were going to
Well,
specifically talk a little bit more maybe about that.
yeah, and I mean, we've already got the localization topic
Yes. Oh,
on
that's right.
deck.
The
We got,
localization.
yeah, we got a bunch of stuff that we got
Absolutely.
slated right now.
Love it. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, check out
Yep.
aviosjourney.com. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.